70,000 jobs gone. Not in a decade, not slowly over time, but in a wave of business closures, relocations, and layoffs that reshaped California's economy almost overnight. That's tens of thousands of paychecks erased, thousands of families suddenly uncertain about rent, groceries, and their future. And here's the question that should stop you in your tracks. How does something this massive happen in one of the richest states in America without urgent action to stop it? While headlines focused on politics and promises, factories were shutting down, corporate headquarters were quietly packing up, and small business owners were making painful decisions behind closed doors. The official statements sounded optimistic, but on the ground, communities were feeling the shock. Storefronts went dark, for lease signs multiplied. Your workers with years of experience found themselves asking, what now? So, what really happened? Was it bad luck, national trends, or policy choices? In this video, we're breaking down 10 powerful reasons behind the 70,000 lost jobs and why it matters more than ever. Number 1. Aggressive business regulations. California has some of the most complex business regulations in the country, and while many of them are designed to protect workers and the environment, the real question is, at what cost? Over the past several years, companies have faced growing layers of compliance rules, permit requirements, environmental reviews, and reporting mandates. For large corporations, that might mean hiring another legal team. But for small and mid-sized businesses, it can mean the difference between survival and shutdown. According to multiple economic analyses, states with heavier regulatory burdens tend to see slower small business growth and higher relocation rates. In California, even simple expansion projects can take months, sometimes years, due to permitting delays and environmental impact reviews. Imagine running a manufacturing plant and wanting to add a new production line, only to be told you'll need extensive paperwork, multiple agency approvals, and unpredictable waiting periods. Every delay costs money. Every added requirement increases overhead. And here's where it becomes personal. When compliance costs rise, businesses don't just absorb the hit, they adjust. They freeze hiring, they cut hours, they automate, or they leave. States like Texas, Nevada, and Arizona actively promote faster permitting processes and lower compliance barriers, making relocation not just tempting, but financially logical. The issue isn't whether regulations are good or bad. The issue is balance. When rules multiply faster than businesses can adapt, jobs begin to disappear quietly. And for thousands of workers, those regulatory decisions don't feel like policy debates. They feel like pink slips. If this breakdown gave you clarity, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from and how job trends have impacted your area. We put serious time and research into every video, so if you value fact-based analysis, hit subscribe. It's just one click, but it helps us keep digging deeper. Number 2. High corporate taxes and rising business costs. California consistently ranks among the states with the highest corporate tax burdens in the nation. On paper, that may sound like a policy aimed at generating revenue for public services. But in reality, taxes are only one part of a much bigger cost equation businesses must calculate every single year. When companies evaluate where to expand or whether to stay, they compare total operating expenses. And in many cases, California simply costs more. It's not just the corporate income tax rate, it's payroll taxes, local business fees, property taxes, and compliance costs stacked on top of each other. For a growing company, especially in manufacturing, logistics, or tech infrastructure, those numbers add up fast. A relocation report from recent years showed dozens of firms either moving headquarters or expanding operations in lower tax states like Texas, Florida, and Tennessee. Why? Because even a few percentage points difference can translate into millions of dollars saved annually. Now think about what that means on a human level. When a headquarters leaves, it's not just executives who relocate, it's administrative assistants, HR teams, marketing staff, maintenance workers, entire ecosystems of employment. And often, once the central hub moves, satellite offices follow. Businesses are not emotional, they're mathematical. If staying costs significantly more than leaving, the decision becomes financial, not political. Over time, those decisions compound. One company leaves, then another, then another, and suddenly, the tens of thousands of jobs are no longer part of the state's economy. High taxes don't automatically kill jobs, but when combined with other rising costs, they can quietly push opportunity across state lines. Now, we want to hear from you. If you owned a business, what would matter more? Location or lower costs? Drop your honest answer below. We invest serious time researching every angle of these stories. If you appreciate that effort, take 1 second to hit subscribe. It truly helps us keep bringing you deeper analysis. Number 3, soaring energy costs and aggressive climate mandates. California has positioned itself as a national leader in clean energy and climate policy. The state has pushed ambitious renewable energy goals, phased out certain fossil fuel operations, and introduced strict emissions standards. Supporters argue these moves are necessary for the planet's future. But for many businesses, especially those that rely heavily on electricity, the immediate impact has been painfully financial. California's commercial electricity rates consistently rank among the highest in the United States. For energy intensive industries like manufacturing, food processing, data centers, and logistics, power isn't optional. It's the backbone of operations. When electricity prices climb, operating costs surge. And unlike luxury expenses, and energy bills can't simply be trimmed. A factory can't run at half power. A warehouse can't function in the dark. Research has shown that energy prices significantly influence where manufacturers choose to locate. When neighboring states offer substantially lower utility rates, the comparison becomes unavoidable. Over time, companies facing tight margins start asking a hard question. Can we stay competitive if our power costs are double what they'd be somewhere else? The result isn't always dramatic overnight closures. Often it's gradual. A company delays expansion. A new facility is built in another state instead of California. Hiring slows. Eventually, jobs shift elsewhere. Climate policy may aim at long term environmental benefit, but in the short term, the economic trade offs are real. When energy becomes too expensive, businesses adapt, and sometimes that adaptation means leaving. Quick question: would you pay double for electricity if you ran a business? Tell us yes or no in the comments and explain why. We put serious effort into breaking down these complex issues. If you value that work, hit subscribe. It's just one click, but it makes a big difference for us. Number 4, rapid minimum wage increases and labor mandates. Over the past several years, California has aggressively raised the minimum wage, along with introducing sector-specific pay mandates in industries like fast food and healthcare. On the surface, higher wages sound like a clear win for workers, and for many employees, short-term income did increase. But the economic ripple effects are more complicated than they first appear. When the minimum wage rises quickly, especially during periods of inflation and economic uncertainty, businesses are forced to adjust fast. Payroll is often one of the largest expenses for restaurants, retailers, warehouses, and service providers. If labor costs jump significantly in a short time, companies have only a few options: raise prices, cut hours, reduce staff, automate, or relocate. Economic research on wage hikes shows mixed outcomes. In some cases, modest increases have limited negative effects, but sharp or rapid increases, particularly when layered on top of high taxes, regulations, and energy costs, can squeeze smaller businesses that operate on thin profit margins. A family owned restaurant doesn't have the same financial cushion as a billion-dollar corporation. The result? Some businesses reduce hiring. Others replace entry level jobs with self checkout kiosks or automation systems. Some simply shut their doors. And when one small business closes, the impact spreads. Suppliers lose contracts, neighboring stores lose foot traffic, and local communities lose opportunity. Higher wages aim to help workers. But when policies don't account for the broader economic ecosystem, unintended consequences can follow. And in a fragile economy, even well intentioned mandates can accelerate job losses instead of preventing them. If you've seen businesses in your area struggle with rising labor costs, share your story below. We read every comment. We put real time and research into these videos. If you value that effort, please hit subscribe. It's one simple click that helps us keep going. Number 5. Population exodus and shrinking consumer demand. Here's something many people don't immediately connect to job losses: population decline. Over the past few years, California has experienced a noticeable net outflow of residents. Hundreds of thousands of people have relocated to states like Texas, Arizona, Nevada, and Florida in search of lower housing costs, lower taxes, and more affordable living overall. And when people leave, they don't just take their moving trucks, they take their spending power. Every local economy runs on consumer demand. Restaurants depend on diners. Retail stores depend on shoppers. Service businesses depend on nearby households. When population numbers shrink, businesses feel it quickly. Fewer customers mean lower revenue. Lower revenue means tighter budgets. And tighter budgets often mean hiring freezes or layoffs. It's a domino effect. Imagine owning a small cafe in a neighborhood where dozens of families move out within a year. Foot traffic slows. Daily sales dip. You try promotions, discounts, new menu items, but the customers simply aren't there like they used to be. Eventually, tough decisions have to be made. Data from interstate migration reports show that many who left California were working age adults and middle income earners, exactly the demographic that fuels local economies. Losing that core base can create long term economic drag. Population growth usually signals opportunity, population decline signals caution. And when businesses sense shrinking demand, expansion plans pause, investment slows, jobs quietly disappear. Or sometimes the biggest economic shifts aren't loud headlines, they're slow leaks that drain momentum over time. Have you or someone you know moved out of California recently? Tell us why in the comments. Your real experiences matter here. We put serious research and effort into every video. If you appreciate that work, take 1 second to hit subscribe. It truly helps us continue. Number 6. The housing crisis and workforce drain. California's housing market has become one of the most expensive in the country. Median home prices in many cities have climbed far beyond what middle-income workers can reasonably afford. Rent isn't much better. In major metro areas, monthly rent for a modest apartment can consume a massive portion of someone's paycheck. And when housing costs spiral out of control, the workforce begins to fracture. Think about this. A company might offer a competitive salary on paper, but if an employee has to spend 40 to 50% of their income just to keep a roof over their head, that salary suddenly doesn't stretch very far. Over time, skilled workers start looking elsewhere, not necessarily for higher pay, but for better affordability. States with lower housing costs suddenly look incredibly attractive. And for employers, this creates a silent crisis. Businesses struggle to recruit and retain talent. Positions remain unfilled for months. Over time, costs rise because fewer workers are available. Productivity drops. Eventually, some companies make a difficult calculation. Instead of fighting the housing challenge, they relocate operations to areas where employees can actually afford to live. Research consistently shows a strong link between housing affordability and economic growth. When housing supply fails to keep pace with demand, prices surge and workforce mobility increases. The very people who keep businesses running, teachers, healthcare workers, technicians, service staff, are often the first to leave. A thriving economy needs affordable housing to anchor its workforce. Without it, even strong industries begin to weaken. And as workers move away, so do the jobs tied to them. Are housing costs impacting your career decisions? Share your experience below. Your story adds real perspective. We invest serious time into researching and producing these videos. If you value that effort, please hit subscribe. It's just one click, but it helps more than you know. Number 7. Rising insurance costs and business liability risks. Another pressure point that rarely makes flashy headlines is soaring insurance costs. In recent years, many California businesses have faced sharp increases in commercial property insurance, liability coverage, and workers' compensation premiums. For some, rates didn't just rise, they doubled or tripled. And in certain high risk areas, especially regions prone to wildfires, insurers have pulled out entirely. Insurance isn't optional. If you own a restaurant, warehouse, construction firm, or retail store, you must carry coverage to operate legally and protect against risk. But when insurers either dramatically raise premiums or refuse to renew policies, businesses are left scrambling. Some are forced into high cost last resort insurance pools. You others discover that staying insured in California costs far more than relocating to another state. Wildfires have played a major role in this shift. Billions of dollars in disaster claims have made insurers more cautious. But from a business owner's perspective, the cause doesn't change the outcome: higher fixed costs and greater uncertainty. And uncertainty is something investors and entrepreneurs avoid. Imagine planning next year's budget only to find out your insurance premium jumped by 80%. That money has to come from somewhere. Hiring plans get postponed, expansion gets cancelled. In extreme cases, companies shut down entirely because coverage becomes unaffordable. When you combine insurance volatility with taxes, energy costs, and labor mandates, the financial pressure compounds. One cost increase might be manageable. E5 at once can become overwhelming. Risk is part of doing business. But when managing that risk becomes unpredictably expensive, many companies start asking a serious question. Is it worth staying? Have insurance hikes affected businesses in your community? Tell us what you've seen. Your local insight matters more than headlines. We put real research and effort into every video. If you appreciate that work, tap subscribe. It's one click that helps us keep uncovering the facts. Number 8. Supply chain disruptions and port congestion. California has long been the gateway for international trade, with major ports handling a massive share of goods entering the United States. But during recent years, severe supply chain disruptions and port congestion created bottlenecks that rippled across the economy. Ships waited offshore for days, sometimes weeks, unable to unload cargo. Containers piled up. Delivery timelines became unpredictable. For consumers, that meant delayed products and higher prices. For businesses, it meant something far more serious: operational chaos. Retailers couldn't stock shelves on time. Manufacturers couldn't get parts needed for production. Small businesses that relied on imported materials suddenly faced long gaps in inventory. And when inventory stalls, revenue stalls. The research into supply chain shocks shows that prolonged disruptions can reduce output, shrink profit margins, and force companies to rethink their logistics strategies. Some businesses began rerouting shipments to ports in other states. Others shifted warehousing and distribution centers closer to alternative shipping hubs outside California. Over time, those logistical adjustments can become permanent. Imagine running a company where a critical shipment delay means missing a major sales season. The financial hit doesn't just affect the current quarter, it affects staffing decisions. Hiring slows. Temporary workers aren't brought back. Expansion plans pause. While global supply chain problems were not unique to California, the scale of congestion at key ports intensified local economic strain. And once businesses adapt to operating elsewhere, they often don't return. Trade infrastructure is a powerful economic engine, but when that engine stalls, the jobs connected to it can stall as well, quietly, steadily, and sometimes permanently. Did supply shortages or shipping delays impact your job or business? Share your experience below. Real stories bring these numbers to life. We spend hours researching and breaking down these issues for you. If you value that effort, please hit subscribe. It's one simple click that keeps this channel going. Number 9. Political uncertainty and shifting policy signals. Businesses can handle high costs. They can adapt to regulations. They can even survive short term economic downturns. But what they struggle with most is uncertainty. In recent years, California has experienced frequent policy shifts, ballot initiatives, regulatory updates, and legal challenges that have created an unpredictable business climate. And when rules seem to change quickly or without long transition periods, companies hesitate. Investors and executives make decisions based on stability. Before building a new factory or opening a headquarters, they calculate long term costs over 5, 10, even 20 years. If tax rates, labor laws, environmental standards, or compliance requirements appear subject to sudden changes, long term planning becomes risky. Economic research consistently shows that policy uncertainty reduces private investment. When companies can't confidently forecast expenses, they delay expansion or move projects to states where regulations feel more stable and predictable. It's not always about whether a rule is strict, it's about whether it's consistent. Imagine planning a multi-million-dollar facility only to face the possibility of new mandates or fees mid-project. That risk alone can redirect investment elsewhere. And once capital flows out, job creation slows down. Political debates are normal in any democracy, but when businesses perceive constant turbulence, confidence erodes. And confidence is one of the most powerful drivers of economic growth. Over time, even small signals of instability accumulate. Investors become cautious. Expansion becomes rare. Or hiring slows. And the economy quietly loses momentum. Sometimes jobs don't disappear because of one dramatic policy. They disappear because confidence fades. Do you think stability matters more than low costs when running a business? Drop your honest take in the comments. We want real opinions, not scripted ones. We dedicate serious time and research to every video. If you respect that effort, please hit subscribe. It's one quick click that helps us keep delivering in-depth analysis. Number 10, the automation shift and business survival mode. Here's a reason that often hides in plain sight: automation acceleration. When businesses face rising labor costs, higher taxes, expensive energy, insurance hikes, and regulatory pressure all at once, they don't always relocate immediately. Sometimes they adapt in another way, by replacing jobs with machines. Over the past few years, automation technology has become more affordable and more efficient. Self-checkout kiosks in retail stores, ordering screens in fast food restaurants, automated warehouse systems that sort and package goods with minimal human involvement. These technologies aren't new, but economic pressure has sped up their adoption. Research shows that when labor becomes significantly more expensive, companies are more likely to invest in automation. But it's not necessarily about eliminating workers out of preference, it's about survival. If a business calculates that installing automated systems will reduce long-term payroll costs and protect against future wage hikes, the decision becomes financially logical. Imagine owning multiple restaurant locations and facing sharp increases in hourly wages. You could raise prices and risk losing customers. You could cut staff and hurt service quality. Or you could install digital ordering kiosks and reduce staffing needs permanently. Many choose the third option. The result? Productivity might remain stable, but job counts decline. Automation doesn't grab headlines like political debates do. It's quiet, gradual, systematic. But when economic conditions push companies into defensive mode, job replacement can accelerate rapidly. And when you combine automation with business relocation and population decline, the impact compounds. Sometimes jobs don't move, they don't relocate, they simply disappear. Now we want your perspective. Is automation progress, or is it replacing opportunity? Tell us where you stand in the comments. We put countless hours into researching and crafting these breakdowns. If you value that effort, please hit subscribe. It's just one click, but it keeps this channel alive. 70,000 jobs didn't disappear because of one speech, one law, or one headline. They vanished through a chain reaction. Rising regulations added pressure. High taxes increased operating costs. Energy prices climbed. Wage mandates accelerated automation. Housing costs pushed workers out. Insurance premiums surged. Supply chains stalled. And uncertainty made long-term investment feel risky. On their own, each factor might have been manageable. Together, they created a perfect economic storm. And here's the uncomfortable truth: economies don't collapse overnight, they erode quietly, gradually. One company relocates, one expansion gets cancelled, one hiring freeze becomes permanent, then another, until tens of thousands of jobs are simply gone. This isn't about political slogans, it's about outcomes. Leadership is measured not just by intentions, but by results. Every policy decision carries trade offs, every mandate has ripple effects. The real question is whether those trade offs were carefully balanced or underestimated. At the same time, it's important to remember that California remains one of the largest economies in the world. Innovation still exists, opportunity still exists, but economic strength is not automatic. It must be protected, maintained, and constantly evaluated. So, as you reflect on these stern reasons, ask yourself, were these job losses inevitable or were they preventable? Because the future of any state or any economy depends on learning from the past. And when 70,000 jobs disappear, the most important thing we can do is ask why and demand better answers moving forward.